Talk about somebody that was one of your heroes being blown away by your playing. It's got to be one of the most surreal moments in your life. Because
we've had these moments where, you know, you're right, like your heroes, your Mount Rushmore of guitar players that you get to run in, you know, into. Like for me, it was always Brian, it was Page, Eddie, and that fourth spot is always kind of hard between Hendrix, because Hendrix wasn't necessarily my generation, right. But those are the people that changed the game, you know. And I remember being, you know, we were about to perform with Extreme probably about 8-10 years ago, and we were about to do the Astoria in London, and it was closing, so they asked us, it was one of the first shows we ever did when we went over, and they asked us if we would do the last 2 shows there. So we said, great, and we're about to go on, and we're about, I don't know, 20 minutes away, and the door opens, pigeons fly through, angels sing, and Jimmy Page walked in the door.
Oh, wow.
And I thought he was in the wrong. I thought he was in the wrong. I was like, "Can I? Are you lost? Can I help you?" And he's like, "No, man. I came to see you perform. I wanted to see you perform in an intimate place, and you know, that's Jimmy Page." And you know, that's the pages of the pages, the actual page, the Jimmy Pages of the rock and roll book of guitar players. And when he said, you know, he came to, you know, see the band, I was sweating the whole time. We were talking in the dressing room for a while in the corner just about guitars. He was talking about Portugal, how he goes to Portugal to buy this specific guitar. Well, it's alcohol he goes to get called cachaça. It's like Portuguese moonshine. Yeah, cachaça. There you go. And then there's these Portuguese guitarra da terra, which is the traditional guitar. And he's telling me this, and so as they leave, right before we go on, our booking agent comes in and he goes, "Hey, Nuno, don't get too excited, you know, because Jimmy usually says hi." I take him to a bunch of shows, you know, whether it's Foo Fighters or whether it's Muse and stuff. He wants to come see the bands, but you know, he's getting a bit older, and he's probably going to catch like 3 or 4 songs, and then he's going to leave. And I'm like, great. I mean, that's why he said hi to you before the show.
Right.
So when we got on stage, I played the whole show for him anyways, but, you know, the story is intimate enough that we could see the table, and the part that I missed, which is he's going to be upset with me, is 10 minutes after Jimmy Page walked in, the door opened and John Paul Jones walked in.
Oh my gosh.
No bullshit. And I had invited him, though, because we played together in Japan, but I didn't know if he was coming. So he walks in the door 10 minutes after Page. Page looks at him and goes, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And he goes, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And it was
you can say fuck.
I can say fuck.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
What the fuck? No, but so in the dressing room, we had half of Led Zeppelin in the dressing room, and they sat together. So when we went on stage in the balcony, they were at the front row balcony at a table, side by side, just sitting there and just like, you know, critiquing the show. But, you know, that was a long set we did. We did about 2.5 hours. I kept looking up. We played, kept looking up, played. They stayed the whole show.
Wow.
Stayed the encore. It was pretty incredible, man. He watched the whole gig.
Does that affect your performance? Like, are you...
Absolutely.
In what way?
You forget there's an audience. You forget there's a band. You're just in your bedroom and you're like, I'm playing for them. It's Zeppelin. They're in the building, and you change the way you play. You can't help it. Like you almost adapt to what would he like if I played here?
You pull out a violimbo, or what'd you do?
But you know, I remember doing like Midnight Express, and Midnight Express, the piece that I do was inspired. And I said it. I didn't want to mention their names on stage, but it was inspired by Four Sticks, like the rhythm of it. And I said I stole this from one of the besties in the room tonight. I didn't mention his name, but to be able to play that stuff, and then to get a text later, I got a text later, Robbie got a text from my booking agent, and he made a comment that I'm not gonna say on the air, but it's because it's kind of a little bit bragatory, and you know I don't like to be uncomfortable.
But it was. I mean, that's got to be just surreal to look out there and you see Half of Zeppelin watching you play.
You always flash back to you. Every time I post something like that, I always talk about, people probably think I'm crazy, but I talk about my bedroom in Hudson, Massachusetts, where you sat there and you learned everything by taking the needle of the Zeppelin record, play, just 2 seconds, stop it, try to figure it out, play it, and then it's cassettes. But you sat in that laboratory in your bedroom for hours, 16, 17 hours a day, and then to be on a stage and look up and they're coming to see you, it's bizarre. It's beyond a dream. I'm beyond grateful and thankful. But after it happens, you almost still believe it never really happened. It just It's hard to believe.
We got to go to a break. We have a few more minutes when we come back, but I do want to fill the audience in on something because Nuno left a little bit of a cliffhanger earlier in the hour when he said about the whole Jimmy Page thing and Page coming to watch him, and then Nuno said that there was a text and he didn't like to say what it said because it sounds self-serving or whatever. But that text said from Jimmy Page about that performance.
You can shine my shoes anytime. No.
That Jimmy said it was one of the top 5.
Yeah, he said, I don't want to repeat. He said top 5 guitar performances he's ever seen.
One of the top 5 greatest guitar performances he had ever seen.
It could have been top 3, man. I tried. I tried for top 3. But I figure he's much older than me, so maybe he's seen a few guys.
Exactly.